And on this Christmas, another reason for hope today, about 8 in 10 children diagnosed with cancer will make a recovery. My colleague Mike Walter asked one of the leading researchers what's behind this improving number.
This improvement has really come about from doctors and nurses choosing to specialise in the problems faced by children with cancer and their families, and then agreeing to work together, beyond their hospitals across countries and sometimes internationally, to develop new treatments, new ways of treating children. So we recognise that if your child's diagnosed with cancer, this is a life-threatening situation, and the best treatment you can be offered is to go into a clinical trial. And this is when doctors and nurses across wide areas are working together to do research to make improvement. Your child will be offered the current best standard of care alongside a possibility of modifying that treatment a little bit to make it more effective.
Now, you argue that we've seen progress over the years, but future progress is threatened. Why?
By using the current drugs that we have at our disposal to treat cancer in children, we've really reached the limits. So a lot of clinical trials have really pushed the doses, pushed the intensity of treatment. And using these approaches, we've got to about 8 out of 10 children being cured. But that's really pushing treatments we've got to the maximum. And there are some children who either relapse, having had a successful first-line treatment, or there are some rarer types of children's cancer that just don't respond anything like as well, and their chances are not good. So we now need to bring in different types of treatment. And there's a whole swathe of new anti-cancer drugs that have been developed for adults, which it's quite difficult for us to bring into children's cancer treatment.
Kathy, you bring up adults. What are the differences or the different challenges or unique challenges that you see in treating child cancer versus adult cancer?
So children get completely different types of cancer to adults. Many people, of course, don't realise children do get cancer, but about 1 in 600 children will get cancer before they're 15. But they don't get the typical adult cancers, they get cancers that are very specific to children. Now, the good news is that children's cancer are usually very sensitive to chemotherapy drugs, so they often melt away, but some children still need operations, they need radiotherapy. So the unique challenges in children are that we don't want to give radiotherapy to a child who's still growing, and many of the drugs that we use to treat cancer can have very long-term side effects on the heart, the kidneys, the lungs. And sometimes these side effects don't become obvious until maybe 20 years after treatment's finished. So when you're designing clinical studies, trying to make improvements, you've got to take account of minimizing treatment in a child who's under the age of 5, because you want to make their life as an adult much better.
You've brought up these clinical studies. You'll see that in richer countries where they have cutting-edge medical research, but in poorer countries where healthcare is at a premium, what are the differences that you see between perhaps a poorer country and the children's chances versus a richer country like the one you're sitting in right now?
So children get affected by cancer all around the world, and we know that things like cancer of the kidney, Wilms tumor, you see it in children living in Africa, India, America, everywhere. So those cancers can actually be treated quite successfully, even in rich countries, with a relatively simple treatment that can be given in countries like sub-Saharan Africa. But you need to have teams of people there that will work together. So the differences at the moment are massive between the really poor countries and the Western world. But little by little, we're helping those less resourced countries build their local expertise and start to treat some of the childhood cancers that can be cured more easily.
Professor Kathy Pritchard-Jones, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.